The Atlantic Avenue Tunnel. For years, intrepid explorers looking to get a glimpse of the world's first underground transit tunnel built in 1844 could sign up for a tour with Bob Diamond, one of Brooklyn's most quixotic self-made urban archaeologists. After dodging traffic and waiting for the lights to change, guests would descend one by one through a manhole removed off the middle of Court Street and down a ladder. They then emerge into a cavernous space over 2,500 feet long. Diamond discovered the Atlantic Avenue Tunnel in 1980, a remnant of a subterranean portion of the Long Island Railroad that connected New York to Boston. This portion of the line existed before the London Tube was dug in 1863. The Atlantic Avenue Tunnel was placed below grade to prevent deadly street-level accidents between pedestrians and the trains in the already bustling neighborhood. The tunnel was sealed off in 1861, following a new policy that prevented steam locomotives from running in Brooklyn. Diamond did the excavation himself and has been fighting for the last 30 years to use a tunnel to revive trolley transportation and create a museum. A series of controversies and lawsuits halted Diamond's progress, and the tunnel was closed off to tours in 2010. Diamond believes that there is an 1836 locomotive buried in the tunnel, and an engineering firm confirmed through an electromagnetic imaging scan that there was a large metallic object about the dimensions of the lost train behind the wall. Diamond himself has lost access to the tunnel as well, and most New Yorkers are skeptical that this portion of the tunnel will ever be open to the public again. The Wall Street bombing. Long before the horrific incidents that occurred on 9/11, another bomb rocked the heart of the city, this time in the form of a horse-drawn wagon. On September the 16th of 1920, a wagon loaded with 500 pounds of small iron weights and dynamites exploded in front of 23 Wall Street. The corner building at the time was the headquarters of J.P. Morgan & Co., the nation's most powerful bank. The explosion instantly killed 30 people. 8 people died from sustained injuries. Hundreds were injured either from the shrapnel or by the jagged glass that rained down from the building windows. No group or individual claimed responsibility for the attack, leading many to blame the communists. However, in their haste to reopen the stock market the next day, city officials inadvertently destroyed invaluable evidence that could have been conducive to identifying the perpetrators. While the 3-year-long investigation that followed was inconclusive, a 1944 FBI revisit of the case concluded that Italian anarchists were responsible for the plot. However, even this has never been substantiated. To this day, scars of the bombing can be found on the limestone on 23 Wall Street. Arnold Rothstein. Arnold Rothstein is a legendary name in the gangster world. He is credited with transforming organized crime into a massive business that pervaded into the lives of everyday Americans. From a young age, Rothstein was talented with numbers, an aptitude that paid dividend in running a criminal business that included bootlegging, running speakeasies and brothels, and waving the political powers in his favor by filling politics with his gangsters. Rothstein was even responsible for match fixing at the 1919 World Series, where he paid White Sox players $10,000 to intentionally tank the game. Also, the consummate poker player, Rothstein's luck finally ran out in 1928 when he encountered an unprecedented losing streak that left him with $320,000 in debt. Rothstein refused to pay the money, however, claiming that the game had been rigged. 2 months later, in another poker game, he was shot in the stomach as he entered room 349 at the Park Sheraton Hotel, which is now known as Park Central. Rothstein managed to catch a fleeting glimpse of his assailant as he dragged himself out of the Midtown establishment through the service elevator. However, even on his deathbed 2 days later, he refused to give the name of his killer when questioned by the police, staying true to the gangster code of silence. The police tried McManus, the poker game organizer whom Rothstein owed money to. However, he was ultimately acquitted, leaving the murder unsolved. The Bogarts Building. The Bogarts Building once stood in downtown New York City in the Washington Market area. While the area was undergoing urban renewal in the 1960s, the decision was made by the Landmarks Preservation Commission to save the Bogarts Building and use its elements to create a new building nearby. Ergo, the facade of the building was taken down and stored in a vacant lot. On June the 25th of 1974, the building contractor discovered 3 men loading large pieces of the building onto a truck, much to the dismay of Beverly Spatt, the chairman of the Landmarks Preservation Commission, who reportedly ran into the City Hall press room yelling, "Someone has stolen one of my buildings." The truck was traced to a Bronx junkyard where 2/3 of the facade had already been sold as scrap. The salvaged panels of the building were taken back, this time to a secret location in a city-owned building, in order to be incorporated in a building at the South Street Seaport. The architect went to the building to measure the panels in June of 1977. To everyone's shock, the storage unit was empty. The building had been stolen yet again. In 2015, the Museum of the City of New York exhibited a single spandrel panel from the Bogarts Building that still remains. A building at South Street Seaport, on Front Street and Fulton Street, was constructed as a replica of the Bogarts Building, but none of the architectural elements are original. So that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Until next week, goodbye.